other countries have come to me and they've said we were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I've put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. And if we can do that where there's no nuclear weapon going into the hands of Iran, I think, and if they're satisfied, we will be probably satisfied also. We've informed Israel. We've informed other people in the Middle East that have been involved with us. And, it's a very positive development, but we'll see whether or not it amounts to anything.
That's President Trump at the White House yesterday, pausing military action on Iran. That military action was planned for today, but he's pausing it at the request of Middle East leaders, he said. A new round of serious negotiations happening right now, according to the president. He said a deal will be made, and it will include no access to a nuclear weapon for Tehran. But if a deal is not reached, the president says a full-scale assault on Iran will resume. Joining me now is Fox News senior strategic analyst and chairman for the Institute of the Study of War, General Jack Keane, back with us. General, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. Well, what's your take on this plan? The president's set to hold a top-level national security meeting today in the Situation Room, but he told us that military action was planned, but he's going to take a pause on it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, we've been at this since April the 8th, when we went into a ceasefire mode with the hope for some kind of a negotiated settlement. So we're about 6 weeks into this, which exceeds now the amount of time that we were at war when we went to the ceasefire. And likely, if that war had continued, it would have been over now by a number of weeks. So here we are looking for a deal. And what the Iranians, I think, are up to, and what they have been up to since the ceasefire, is to put some things on the table that look appealing, but yet not willing to really make a deal that makes any sense and is acceptable to the president. And their objective is really to drag this out, because they believe in their mind time is on their side. There's more political pressure on the president with the midterms coming, and also more economic pressure. And therefore, they think that at the end of the day, he'll just walk away and not do anything more. That is kind of what they're seeking here, in my view.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen if this deal has got any meat on it. All the other ones did not. And I think the president, he's our backstop here. He's not going to take a lousy deal. He has said that before time and time again. As to our allies, the 3 allies that came forward, Qatar, the UAE, and also Saudi Arabia, I really think we have some leverage here. I understand Iran is likely going to go after their oil and gas infrastructure. They also have significant defense capabilities, as do we in the area, to help assist with that. But the reality is, we can tell the Iranians, if you go after oil and gas infrastructure or our allies in the region, we will begin to systematically destroy your oil and energy capabilities completely. And we'll begin with Carg Island.
Yeah.
And we'll start to dismantle it piece by piece to get their attention. We have significant leverage here.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need to stand down because of a potential threat to oil and gas infrastructure in the region.
I'll tell you, a lot of people are surprised that the Iranians just keep getting up. I mean, General, look, the president tells us all the time, the U.S. destroyed the Navy. They destroyed their Air Force. You've got Iranian ships on the bottom of the water. And yet they refuse, still push back in terms of this, this red line that the president has put in place, that they cannot have access to a nuclear weapon. Are you surprised of this? I don't know. Should I call it resiliency of the Iranians? Is it? Or is it just smoke and mirrors?
No. What they're focused on, completely focused on, is regime survival. They don't care about their people.
They don't care.
They're willing to accept significant amount of degradation. And when we look at them through the prism of U.S. values, American democracy, and what's reasonable, you don't get the right answer. You got to put yourself in their shoes. Regime survival.
Wow.
And they'll take a deal because they would welcome a deal at some point, more closely to their terms, because they know full well we're going to finance their recovery.
Right.
They're going to have to get some assets unfrozen and some sanction relief.
But General,
so they're holding out, and they're willing to put their people through immense suffering
apparently
to achieve their end. Regime survival.
Regime survival, but who's the regime, General? Who are we talking to? I mean, I know you've pinpointed specifics in terms of who's running this, but can you say that person or that group has been in charge from day one? I mean, who is the regime?
No, we know who the regime is. We know their names, and we're dealing with them.
Yeah.
And we've been dealing with these people for weeks now. Ahmed Vahidi is the head of the IRGC. He's very close to the Ayatollah.
It's the military.
The Ayatollah is participating, and the political leaders are Gabalev and others. We know exactly who is in charge here, and they are absolute hardliners, similar to the people we were dealing with before conflict broke out.
Unbelievable.
No doubt who these people are.
Well, this president is juggling so much. You've also got new American intelligence reporting that Cuba acquired over 300 drones and recently began discussing plans to attack the U.S. military base at Guantanamo Bay. It follows CIA Director John Ratcliffe's visit to Cuba. He bluntly warned the Cuban officials engaging in any hostilities with America will not go well. General, your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, on the first surface of it, it's quite absurd. I mean, yes, they may have several hundred drones, but that is not a military capability that would seriously threaten the United States. If they took any offensive military action against the United States, it results in the destruction of that regime. I mean, they certainly know that. This is bluster on their part. Now, if we initiated military action, they certainly have a right to defend themselves. But I'm not aware of any plans for the United States to conduct military action against this regime.
Yeah.
This regime is on the verge, as you know, and you've been pointing it out here for weeks, economic collapse.
Absolutely.
That's the path that they're on here. And certainly what we're trying to do is bend them to our will to provide even more assistance economically to them if they're willing to change the repression of their own people and their form of government and move to a much better government that's representing their people. That is something we would entertain and work in progress forward with the current regime. But they're on the path, as you know, to economic peril here.
And it's the right principled goal to have. General, before you go, real quick on China. I mean, what the president has done here, whether it be Cuba, Iran, Venezuela, I thought strengthens his hand considerably going into that Xi Jinping Beijing meeting. And yet Xi Jinping tried to run the table right from the start, right? Coming up with all these comments about Taiwan, that if the issue is mishandled, there will be a dangerous place and a conflict with the United States. Your thoughts on the meeting overall in China?
Well, I think the objective for the United States was to stabilize the relationship. I think that's been achieved, to correct some of the trade imbalance that exists. And I understand there's been some deals, not the specifics of them released yet, but we'll know in time whether, one, they've been made, and two, whether China will fulfill those promises. You know, China in the past has made promises, but promises weren't kept.
That's
I think
right.
China's principal objective here was to weaken the United States support for Taiwan. And that is why the strong statements that were being made by President Xi during the meeting and after the meeting as well.
Yeah.
But stabilize the relationship, I think the mission has been accomplished.
Well, that's a good point. That's true.
Keep talking to each other.
All right, General. Great to always speak with you. We so appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, great talking to you, Maria. Thank you.
General Jack Keane. We'll be right back.